After 10 years of the release of The Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red finally had the decency to announce the new installment in their franchise. And just by looking at the first trailers, I know that this is going to be a certified banger. Therefore, a lot of new players are going to be introduced to this beautiful but gruesome world that provides excellent characters, politics, romance, racial discrimination, and a lot of action. But the game doesn't do an excellent job in providing information and the backstory of the characters that we love so much. So, in order to answer those questions that you are probably thinking right now, like, what are Witchers? Do all of them have white hair? Wasn't the main character a middle-aged looking guy? Why did he transition? Shut up, Gibbert! I'm trying to talk! All of that and more is gonna be answered on this video by explaining the backstory of its original main character. The White Wolf, the Butcher of Blaviken, the Clapper of Sorceress, and for the racist population of the continent, Mutant. This is the story of the sexy man Geralt of Rivia. To understand better the story of Geralt of Rivia, first we have to go back 1500 years before he was even born to an event called the Conjunction of the Spheres. This event shattered reality just like you shatter your pants after a night out. And with your buttocks open, otherworldly creatures start to creep into the world of The Witcher. Previously inhabited by elves and gnomes, now it's a fitting ground for ghouls, vampires, and worst of all, humanity itself. But after the conjunction, humanity was not this unstoppable force of destruction like they are known today. Actually, they were pretty fucked. They were at the bottom of the food chain, being hunted down by ghouls and vampires. The only saving grace of the conjunction of the spheres, it was that we got buff, baby. Yes, we were introduced to chaos, aka magic. And with magic, now we had options. But the best idea humanity could come up with was to kidnap some children, then subject them to dark alchemical rituals, to mutation, and use experimental concoctions on them. If they survive, which sometimes they didn't, then they will be subjected to more training in order to create this inhumane, perfect, monster-killing machine, the new shield of humanity, the Witchers. And they were effective, but replenishing the ranks was neither ethical nor easy to do, since the mutations of the Witchers underwent left their swimmers unable to swim, so they could not reproduce, and kidnapping children was a start to create problems with the general population. Therefore, Andrzej Sapkowski, the author of the books, created the perfect plot device, the Law of Surprise. A law tied by destiny that basically states that if you save someone's life and he cannot repay you at the moment, you can invoke this law and he will have to repay you with the first thing he finds at home or something he does not expect. Conveniently enough, sometimes it is a child. And remember this law because it's going to be very important in more than one occasion. One of the children unlucky enough to be claimed by this law was the son of the sorceress Vicina. A Witcher saved her lover's life, and in doing so, he claimed the Law of Surprise. Vicina had to repay him with his unborn child, that was later known as Geralt of Rivia. Baby Geralt was taken to the fortress of the School of the Wolf, Kaer Morhen, and was subjected to the Trial of the Grasses, a trial to make Witchers that had a pretty high chance of the dream of being a Witcher staying as just a dream. But he survived. He didn't only survive, he main charactered the shit out of it by displaying inhumane adaptability to the mutations. And having this prodigy in their hands, the Witchers decided to do more dangerous and experimental mutations. But he survived again. Now he was not just a regular Witcher, he was a super Witcher. Faster, stronger, and as an added bonus, he had white hair. And after completing his training in Kaer Morhen, he started his lonely path as a Witcher, never staying long, never saying much. Witchers are not heroes, they are professionals, paid to slay monsters, solve cursed riddles, and then vanish into the wilderness, without getting involved in the personal affairs of the world. But Geralt was different. In the books, Geralt tells the story of the first time he got out of Kaer Morhen as a full-fledged Witcher. In the path, he encounters a father and a daughter being attacked by a group of bandits. Geralt heard the voice of Papa Vesemir telling him, "No, Geralt, don't get involved in it." But Geralt didn't give a fuck. He got involved and unalived all the bandits, and when he thought he was going to be praised as a hero by the father and the daughter, he came to the crude realization that the people that he protects fear him as much as the monsters he slays. Throughout his journeys, Geralt had received many nicknames, but the most iconic and, in my opinion, the most important to the character was the one that he earned in the book The Last Wish, in the short story in Blaviken. Geralt got entangled in a conflict between a mage called Stregobor and a princess that was exiled due to a prophecy called Renfri. He was forced to take a decision between killing Renfri and her band that were planning on doing a massacre in Blaviken in order to take revenge on Stregobor, or convince the mage of going out of hiding so that Renfri could take revenge on him and no blood will be spilled. Knowing that Stregobor valued more his life over all the lives in Blaviken, our Witcher was forced to take the lesser evil by killing Renfri. Geralt confronted her and begged her to back down, but she refused. Therefore, Geralt had to kill them in the streets of Blaviken. For the untrained eye of the peasants, they didn't saw a savior, they just saw a killer, earning him the name of the Butcher of Blaviken. I say this is an important story because it shows the thinking process of Geralt of what he should do. He connects with Renfri, even banging her before he had to kill her, and ponders in the idea of her being like that because of the prophecy or because the way she was treated. After leaving Blaviken, Geralt started his next quest on getting the nickname the Clapper of Sorcerers. While he was traveling with his trusty bard Dandelion, they encounter a djinn, a magical creature that grants wishes. Geralt unknowingly became the master of the djinn and made a reckless wish that threatened the life of Dandelion. In order to save him, they had to find a sorceress, and the only one that he could find was Yennefer of Bangervord. Geralt pleaded for her help and she agreed. Yennefer saved Dandelion, but she had other motives. She wanted to take control over the djinn and enhance her magical abilities. After Geralt realized the plans of the sorceress, he warned her that this was going to be a stupid plan and that she was going to get killed because djinns are really powerful creatures. She got mad and mind-controlled our Witcher to do some vandalism in the city they were in. When he snapped out of it, he was found in prison as he was doing some pretty questionable things to religious and political figures of the city. In the middle of Geralt trying to explain why he did those things, the fight between Yennefer and the djinn broke out in the city, creating mass destruction and mayhem. The mayor of the city told Geralt that if he took care of the djinn and Yennefer, he will be pardoned for all his crimes. So he got to work, but when he arrived to the fight, he saw that the djinn was clapping Yennefer's cheeks. Geralt got mad and said, "Nah, I am the only one that will clap her cheeks," using his final wish to dispel the djinn. Geralt's wish was a little bit cheeky. He knew that the djinn could not harm his own master, so he wished for their fates to be intertwined, in that way saving Yennefer's life, dispelling the djinn, and giving birth to their on and off romantic relationship. Do you remember the Law of Surprise? Yes? Good, because he's going to play Geralt once again. He was invited to a feast in Sintra by the Queen Calanthe. The feast had the purpose of finding a suitor for Princess Pavetta. Therefore, there was a lot of important people from different kingdoms. But they were suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a knight on a full armor named Duny. He addresses directly to the queen and demands the hand of Princess Pavetta in marriage, as years prior he saved the life of the late king of Sintra and invoked the Law of Surprise on him. His reward was the princess that was about to be born. Don't ask me how old Duny was, but this is the world of The Witcher, and for story purposes we just have to move along. Calanthe was not happy with this, as she knows that this knight holds a secret. Calanthe, in an attempt to have a better control of the situation, asked Duny to remove his helmet, but he refused. Tensions rose in the hall, as Geralt realized why he was invited to the feast. The queen invited the Witcher because she knew this was going to happen, and wanted him to take care of the situation. You see, our friend Duny here was cursed, and during a time of the day, he was an ugly-looking hedgehog. Geralt was again presented with a difficult decision, but he knew better than to meddle with destiny. At the refusal of the Witcher, the queen sent her guards to finish Duny. Geralt, once again with his hero complex, jumped into action and defend Duny, saving his life. For some reason in all this process, no one asked Pavetta what she thought about the situation, which she already agreed to, and was fine to marry Duny. But the queen didn't approve of this, so Pavetta got mad. Oh boy, she got really mad, as no one respected her rights as an independent woman, and let out a magical burst that threatened the lives of the guests. Geralt and my boy Ermion, a druid from Skellig, managed to calm down Pavetta by remembering her that she actually had rights, but her mother was just being, well, her mom, and she didn't want her to marry an ugly-looking cursed being. After all the commotion, Calanthe came to terms with the fact that her daughter loved this ugly dude and wanted to marry him. But everyone was shocked when they realized that ugly Duny had transformed into a handsome Duny. It turns out that when Calanthe accepted the marriage of Pavetta and Duny, it lifted his curse. Duny was overjoyed and a little too full of himself and insisted on a reward for Geralt. Our Witcher here, for some reason, didn't follow his own advice that he just gave like 5 minutes ago and invoked the fucking law of surprise. And now you know what happens next, right? Cheeky Pavetta was already pregnant with the child of Duny, and now that child was going to be the reward for Geralt. I swear to God, Geralt is his own worst enemy. This child was later known as Cirilla Fiona Ellen Rhiannon, the child of the Elder Blood and the adoptive daughter of Geralt. As an outstanding father, Geralt rejected time and time again Ciri, but time and time again destiny brought her back to him. After the fall of Sintra by the Nilfgaardian invasion and the presumed death of Ciri's parents, Geralt finally took the responsibility and took her under his wing by taking her to Kaer Morhen. He didn't plan to make her a Witcher, but he wanted to give her some Witcher training. In their time in Kaer Morhen, Ciri displayed some mysterious magical powers that even gave the creeps to the Witchers. Not knowing what to do about these abilities, the Witchers opted to invite our dear Triss Merigold, a sorceress that had a crush on Geralt. She studied the abilities of Ciri and realized that the best suited for this task was Yennefer, that was in an off period with Geralt. Throughout the books, Ciri and Geralt bonded, and actually had a father and daughter-like relationship. Ciri also had a similar relationship with Yennefer, as she took care of her and taught her magic. But later in the story, Ciri was kidnapped by a powerful mage called Vilgefortz due to the elder blood she possessed. You see, Ciri was special. She was not only the rightful heiress to the throne of Sintra, but she also had the elder blood that gave her magical abilities to travel in between worlds. And as an added bonus to her relevance in the continent, it turns out that Duny, her father, was still alive, by the name of Emir ban Emrys, the current emperor of Nilfgaard. So Ciri was also the heiress of Nilfgaard, therefore everyone was looking for her, either to use her magical abilities or her political influence, and it was up to Geralt and his friends to save Ciri. And the books revolve around that, finding Ciri and trying to give her a normal life. At the end of the books, and yes, this is a spoil warning if you're planning on reading the books. Okay, you're gone? Well, Geralt dies. Yes, our superhuman Witcher died at the hands of a man with a pitchfork, but it doesn't sound as pathetic as it sounds. Geralt died in the pogrom of Rivia. The people of Rivia were getting a little bit too racist with the non-human population and decided to massacre them. Geralt was the last bastion between the raging humans and the non-humans. He did a heroic last stand, slashing and bashing, leaving mountains of corpses. But at the end of the day, even witchers get tired. Exhausted by the fight, he eventually got impaled by a pitchfork, mortally wounded our witcher, falling into the ground and giving his last breath, as Jennifer ran desperately to his side. Full of grief and denial, she performed the greatest act of love anyone could do, giving her life for another. Jennifer mustered all her magical might and performed a spell that will allow her to give her life to revive Geralt. But destiny is unpredictable. Destiny is cruel. As an ultimate twisted joke played by it, Jennifer failed to revive the Witcher, and in the process, she died as well. Just as they were reuniting with Ciri, this unconventional family, forged by this concept, ultimately gave them a tragic ending. Ciri, full of grief after losing her parental figures, used her powers to take their bodies to the Isle of Avalon, a place in between worlds in which their bodies could rest in peace, giving an ending to the story of Geralt of Rivia. But they survived! Yes baby, CD Projekt Red bought the rights to the franchise and wanted to continue the story of this badass Witcher, so they did some wombo jumbo and hung on the vagueness of the Isle of Avalon, giving it a tweak, and now instead of being a place of eternal rest, it was a plot device used to heal the wounds of Geralt and Yennefer. In the Isle, Geralt and Yennefer were tracked by the Wild Hunt, a group of evil elves that were hunting down Ciri to use her magical abilities to jump in between worlds. The Hunt captured Yennefer to use her as bait for Ciri, but Geralt didn't let that slide. He made a deal with the Hunt, his services in exchange for Yennefer's freedom. What a man. Geralt rode with the Wild Hunt for a while until he was ultimately freed by Ciri in a super risky rescue mission. Ciri manages to leave Geralt in the doors of the now ransacked Kaer Morhen, soon vanishing and went into hiding because now the Hunt was on her trail. But it was not all good and pretty for our Witcher. You see, he got amnesia. He didn't know who he was, where he was, or who was Yennefer and Ciri, kicking the start of the events of The Witcher 1. Lore-wise, this game is a little bit weird, since CD Projekt Red wanted to do some changes in the story and then backtrack on those events since they didn't really like them. Therefore, I'm just going to say that The Witcher 1 revolves around Geralt finding the bandits that broke into Kaer Morhen and stole some cheeky Witcher secrets, and his friends being dicks, as for some reason, no one told Geralt about Ciri or Yennefer. Also, our dear Triss Merigold took advantage of our Witcher with amnesia and started a romantic relationship with him, as well as convincing him to get into politics. And that started the events of The Witcher 2, Assassination of Kings. Geralt and Triss were serving King Foltest of Temeria and had dreams about an ashen-haired girl and a sorceress that smelled of lilac and gooseberries. He was starting to get back his memories, but he only thought the dreams were just that, dreams. In the Siege of Bergen, it turned out that Foltest was not as hot as he thought he was, as he got assassinated. And well, it turns out Geralt was present in the assassination, and he was not able to prevent it, as the assassin was another super witcher from the School of the Viper, Letho of Gulet. This was a plan orchestrated by our cheeky Duny to debilitate the northern kingdoms for his invasion. They captured Geralt as a prime suspect of the assassination, but in his imprisonment he was helped to escape by Vermund Roach, the leader of an elite military group of Temeria, the Blue Stripes, as he trusted Geralt and knew he was not the culprit. Being an open game with you taking the choices, it's hard to follow a canonical path, but ultimately the game ends with Geralt tracking and confronting Letho. But when they met in Loch Moin for an epic showdown between super witchers, seeing his ugly face triggered a Winter Soldier effect and gave back Geralt his memories, as it turned out that Letho was previously a real one with him. You see, Letho helped Geralt in the past by tracking the Wild Hunt when he was looking for Yennefer. And when Geralt exchanges places with her, Yennefer also had amnesia, and Letho took care of her. But now our Witcher was faced with yet another difficult choice: kill Letho or let him go. But the decision is up to you. But killing him or not, Geralt still cleared his name, as he had proof of his innocence. But now there was another problem. With his memory back, he knows Yennefer and Ciri are in danger, and he has to find them. In between The Witcher 2 and 3, Geralt and Triss finished their relationship. There is no specific reason to why, but I would like to believe that it was because she never told him about the two most important persons in his life being in danger, or even mentioning them. The Witcher 3 starts with Geralt finding out that Ciri was back, when Emir, aka Duny, tasked him with finding her, as it was reported that she was back in the continent. But it's not going to be that easy, as she is being pursued by the Wild Hunt, starting a race between our Witcher and the Wild Hunt, moving heaven and earth just to find some information of the whereabouts of Ciri. Born to be emotionless, he connected with people and loved deeply. Meant to be alone, he forged a family. And now his greatest hunt began, but not as a Witcher on a contract, instead as a father in search of her daughter. This is the story of Geralt of Rivia, all the way until his last hunt, as I encourage for you to play at least The Witcher 3, as it is a masterpiece before The Witcher 4 comes out, especially because there is going to be a new DLC for The Witcher 3. If you want to read the books, or if you prefer the audiobooks, I will leave a link in the description so that you can enjoy the complete story of the saga. Now that you know more about Geralt of Rivia, this Witcher of the School of the Boar is out.